All right, let's take some questions from the audience. First question is from Jen, who says, do you guys believe in the butterfly effect, chaos theory, or karma? Okay, so let's address these one by one. If by karma you mean the sort of idea that if you act in a way that is more ethical, you are going to sort of cause better things to happen to you, and that if you act in ways that are unethical, you are sort of bringing on some kind of future bad luck or negative repercussions. I generally don't believe that, Pat, in the literal sense, although I do believe that if you are someone who tries to act ethically and help others and be moral, that by virtue of that you will probably have better relationships and end up with more opportunities and in more positions for things to happen to you. But that's not really karma in the cosmic sense, I don't think.
No, karma seems to be more of a supernatural type of phenomenon. And I think that people who don't identify as religious, but say that they're spiritual, may be more likely to believe in this kind of thing. But for the
Mm.
most part, I just think it's coincidence. I mean, coincidence happens all the time. It's all around us. And I think sometimes there's a more simple explanation for these things that go on rather than something supernatural like karma or the butterfly effect.
Okay, so that's karma. Now, the butterfly effect, there's debate over whether it's supernatural or not, because the butterfly effect, or sometimes known as sort of chaos theory, is the idea that an action as small as a butterfly flapping its wings in the Amazon in Brazil, for example, causes a sequence of events of growing and growing sort of chain linked magnitude such that it could cause a hurricane on the other side of the world. Okay. And there's a sort of scientific approach to that, which could seek to answer the question. Generally speaking, I completely agree that actions, even small actions, can have do have consequences, and some of those consequences are sort of sequential in the sense of a chain reaction that is caused. However, many people who take this to the extreme in the sort of butterfly example, where a single butterfly flapping its wings in the Amazon creates a chain reaction of events that builds into causing a hurricane that otherwise would not have happened on the other side of the world. It ignores sort of two aspects of reality. One is the cumulative effect of events that take place on the planet. So, if indeed the butterfly flapping its wings had a role to play in a hurricane that ultimately happened on the other side of the world, it could not really have been that butterfly alone that would have caused that, but we might be able to make a scientific case that it was part of a cumulative series of events that led to the hurricane happening. But there's another aspect that's often ignored, which is that there's an underlying dampening ability of our planet and the world that can balance against any individual event. So, as an example, you could say, okay, I rear ended someone, which caused that person to be 10 minutes late getting to work while we exchanged insurance information. And because they were 10 minutes late, they didn't interrupt a funeral motorcade. As a result of the funeral motorcade not being interrupted, an attendee of the funeral was able to more quickly get back to their office and have a business phone call they thought they weren't going to be able to make. And the decisions made on that business phone call had such wide-reaching political implications that 2 years later, a war did not happen as a result, and thus me rear-ending someone caused a war not to happen. It sounds very cool and interesting and sort of metaphysically compelling. The problem, though, is that there is this dampening effect of going back to equilibrium. And at some point in that hypothetical sequence that I lined up, the sequential and growing impact of the rear ending would be balanced out because there was maybe a buffer of 10 minutes already built in, so that one person getting delayed by 10 minutes didn't end up having that impact or something like that. I don't know if I'm sort of being clear, Pat, with the idea, but when people talk about these butterfly effect hypotheses, they ignore the natural dampening effect of the real world.
I mean, I think this is certainly true on a macro scale. So, to bring time travel into this, if we were to go back in time and try to stop the assassination of John F. Kennedy, there would be so many world events that happened thereafter that would completely change the course of history. So, if we're willing to accept that it happens on a scale that big, can we make the same argument if we scale it down to something as seemingly insignificant as a butterfly flapping its wings? I don't know that we can. I think it's kind of a jump.
Yeah, although, the go back in time one also gets into what's called the grandmother paradox, which is if someone goes back and murders their grandmother before she gave birth to their mother, could they have actually gone back in time and done it because they never would have been born because they would have prevented their mother from being born? That's a whole other thing that is very interesting, but it's sort of a different interesting but different question as well. So big picture, conceptually, I believe that actions have consequences. Do I believe in the butterfly effect as sort of caricatured? Not really.